This week, I finally took the plunge into something that I've been hearing about for a very, very, very long time, and that is intermittent fasting. So, if you are unfamiliar with what intermittent fasting is all about, let me break it down for you the best I can. So, you know what fasting is? It basically means you don't eat. And a lot of religions have fasting days, and ironically, it's something that we're finding out more and more the more we study this. It's a really healthy thing to do. It's really good for you in a lot of ways. I'll get to it the best I can here in just a minute. But basically, intermittent fasting means instead of not eating all day long, it just means that you prolong the amount of time in your day that you're not eating. So, and that sounds rough when I say this, but what I'm about to say, people tend to cringe a little bit, but it's really not that bad because you're sleeping through most of it. So, basically, what I've been doing this week, and I started Monday, it's now Thursday, is I stop eating at 8 o'clock at night and I start eating the next day at 2. So I basically eat between 2 and 8, which means I skip breakfast and I have a late lunch. Or what I've been doing, because I love breakfast so much, I've been eating breakfast for lunch and then having a dinner. So you could say I'm really only eating one meal a day, although breakfast is definitely a meal. But that's the idea. And the reason why this is thought to work, it has to do with ketosis. It has to do with what your body does when it goes into a fasting state. And I'm going to explain it the best way I can. I've been watching a lot of videos about it and I've been reading articles about it and stuff like that. But I feel like I still stumble quite a bit when I try to explain it. So this is not the end all be all on the internet of what this is all about. But basically, what happens is your body produces energy through glucose, which is your blood sugar. And you get blood glucose through insulin. That's my cat in the background. You have to do that now? I now have to edit this. Thanks, cat. Anyway, every time you eat, your insulin spikes. Even if it's not that sugary or carby, your insulin will spike every time you eat. And that increases, it helps to be able to pull energy out of the glucose in your blood. When you go in a fasting state, and this is, these are the things that I've heard, so we'll see how accurate they are. But apparently, after about 4 or 5 hours, your body stops digesting. So once it takes about 4 or 5 hours before the last meal that you ate, your body is not digesting it anymore. But it takes about 12 hours after you eat before it completely gets all of the glucose out of it, before your body runs out of glucose to make energy out of, and it has to turn to your fat cells into a process called ketosis, where it pulls ketones out of your fat cells and makes energy out of that. Now, this was thought to actually have an anti-cancer property to it because, as I understood it, cancer cells are not able to use ketones for energy the way your normal body cells are. So some people claim that once a month, if you go 2 or 3 days without eating, or even once a year, if you go like a week without eating, that's super extreme, obviously. But if you go long periods of time without eating, then it can actually kill off any latent cancer cells in there that are trying to get started. This is more of a preventative thing. If you had a tumor on your spine that was killing you, I'm not saying don't eat for 3 days and you'll be fine. That's not how it works. But, little mutated cells that could form into cancerous problems later on can be wiped out while they're still small by doing fasting from time to time. But intermittent fasting basically says you want to go 16 hours without eating, because after 12 hours your body starts to do this ketosis thing, and then you have like a good 3 or 4 hours there. Everybody's different, obviously. Where your body is pulling energy out of your fat cells. Now, obviously, this shrinks your fat cells, so there's a weight loss component to it, which is probably what gets most people interested in it. But there's that anti-cancer benefit as well. But even beyond that is an anti-aging benefit. Because, and again, these are very simple terms here, but when your body is not using energy to digest, it will use your energy to repair your cells. And it will induce apoptosis in damaged cells. Apoptosis is basically cell death, cellular death. So all the energy that you would be expending trying to pull energy out of food and digestion goes into your body and starts repairing your body cells. And when your blood glucose goes down, your body increases the production of human growth hormone, which is what builds muscles. So surprisingly, there are people like Terry Crews who's just like made of muscle, and he is a huge advocate for intermittent fasting. This is something that he does. You see somebody like that, you think they must eat all day long to be so big and to be able to fuel all that muscle. But in fact, he only eats, I think, one meal a day, or in a small window of time during the day anyway. So in a lot of ways, it's very counterintuitive. You wouldn't think that somebody who eats less would be bigger. But of course, there's a lot of, look, Terry Crews does things that I don't do, obviously. But it's just an interesting concept. And there's just, the more I look into it, the more benefits there are to it. Now, the next question is, how difficult is it to only eat between 2 and 8 every day? And for me, it's not really been that bad. The worst part is I am a coffee fiend. I need my coffee in the morning, and I generally make it really sweet and creamy. I'm definitely a fan of lattes, and you can't do that. I definitely can't use sugar in the coffee anymore, which makes the coffee not the way I want it. I've read in different places that some places say you can use a little bit of cream and it's not a problem. Other places say you can't even use almond milk without it being a problem. I use a little bit of cream. I might get down straight to black coffee eventually. Yesterday I just had an espresso. But like I said, I like my breakfast food, but I've found that breakfast food tastes just as good at 2 in the afternoon as it does first thing in the morning. Your hunger will kind of come and go in waves. I find that around 10, 11 o'clock, I get really snacky and really munchy, and I want to get something then. That gets kind of difficult. First thing in the morning is not too bad. I start to get maybe around noon a little bit hungry. But it really has not, like, I have not felt like I'm starving myself. I haven't been in any kind of distress at all. But my schedule is, so I wake up in the morning, I skip breakfast, I might have a coffee. You need to drink a lot of water. Water actually fills you up a little bit, but it also helps kind of flush out, when your body is repairing its cells, it's going to flush out a lot of bad stuff. I hate to use the word toxins because it's being used in a lot of bad ways these days in a lot of pseudoscience, but it does flush out toxins, and so you need to drink a lot of water to get that out. Also, your body, when it goes into ketosis, it can cause kidney stone problems, which I already have. So I'm taking some supplements to try to prevent that, as well as drinking a lot of water. But anyway, so I wake up in the morning, have me some coffee, I do work, and then I do a workout, I do some exercise around 1 or 1:30. Like, that's how I end my fast, with exercise. And then when I eat, all that protein goes into the muscles, because that's another thing, is when you stress your muscles, your body produces more of that human growth hormone. Human growth hormone takes energy and feeds it into the muscles instead of into the belly fat and that kind of thing. So I'm trying it. I want to do it for about a month. There's different ways of doing intermittent fasting as well. I'm doing sort of daily thing, but there are, they call it the 5 and 2 method, which basically means you eat for 5 days and then you don't eat for 2 days every week. I might try that at some point, but I'm not really into doing it right now. One of the things that I like the most about it is I've always been really strict on my diet, and it's not that big of a deal. It's something I've gotten used to over a very long time. I basically kept to the slow carb diet that Tim Ferriss preaches, but the thing is, when you're doing the fasting, what they found in the studies was that people who ate very low fat diets and people who ate very high fat diets had the exact same results. So I can actually eat what I want. I can just eat normally. And then the first couple of days I was probably overeating a little bit, because I was like, oh, I need to eat as much as I can because I'm going to be starving later. But what I've actually found happens is your stomach shrinks a little bit. So like yesterday, I got a sandwich for lunch that I've eaten a million times at this place down the street, and I could barely finish it. So what they found out was that after people have been on it for a while, they actually don't eat that much more than they used to, even on the 5 and 2 diets. So it's not about what you eat so much as when you eat and how you eat. So that's it. That's interesting, and it makes it so that I can just not have to think all the time about what I'm gonna eat. I can just eat whatever as long as it's 2 o'clock. So I'm giving it a whirl. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully, I can trim down a little bit. I'm not a fat dude. Never have been, but it's really not as much for me about aesthetics as it is about anti-aging and that kind of thing. Although I will say, being on camera all the time makes you very hyper aware about when you put a little bit on. And I did put some on over the holidays because I ate like crazy, because that's what you do. But anyway, that's what's going on in my life right now. I'm giving that a whirl, and wish me luck. I will obviously update and let you guys know how it's going in the future. I'm gonna take stock in about 30 days, and you'll be hearing more about it. Anyway, that's been too much information. I'll see you next time.